We are going around the bases, and our first stop is in Cooperstown, New York, where a pair of new Hall of Famers got their moment in the sun. Congratulations to Scott Rolen and Fred McGriff. And Scott said, and his speeches were so wonderful. Scott said, it wasn't on my radar, and spoke to the writers. I'm glad it was on yours. Played against Scott. What was it like?
Ultimate gamer, ultimate professional. Played third base as good as anybody I've ever seen in my life. Actually, would ask him a ton of questions defensively. He said, Billy, I don't know, he said he used to almost pigeon toe his feet a little bit at third base to kind of clear his hips to make plays left or right. It was something I took from him. Just both of these guys are exactly what you want in a ball player. Fred McGriff the same, so. And I loved Scott Rolen giving his dad that kind of commitment with his dad.
Crime Dog was...
What was the saying he said yesterday? Then do that then.
Yeah, then do that then. Yeah.
It was awesome.
The Crime Dog was in your era.
I tell you what, I go back, so I'll date myself, because playing in old Exhibition Stadium in Toronto where the Argonauts played football, Fred McGriff to this day still has the farthest home run ball I've ever seen. And it was off Oswaldo Peraza, little split chi, and my man goes, and Eddie's at first base, knows something about hitting home runs.
Look at that.
Screams when Fred hit it. He runs around second base, and I've seen the video of this. Junior looked at him. My brother never looked at anybody like this. Mickey Tettleton was the catcher when he crossed home plate. And Fred started walking back to the dugout, and Mick said something to him. And to this day, when I see Fred McGriff, I start, and he goes, I know, Oswaldo Peraza. He said, you've told it to me enough. But Fred, the Crime Dog, this man just hit homers. And when he stepped in the batter's box, you paid attention when you were playing defense. And I think, to me, that's what a Hall of Famer is. You pay attention more to those guys.
It took way too long for him to get in.
I think so.
Bring up this board real quick, just to kind of do justice for Fred McGriff. We all think Freddie Freeman's on the Hall of Fame highway.
Yep.
First 14 seasons, look at the bombs Fred McGriff hit. I mean, pretty spot on, both of them.
Yeah, and I mean, look at, unbelievable.
His peak came just before the steroid era, so then his numbers got kind of dwarfed and almost forgotten in a sense, and it wasn't fair.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he finished McGriff like 7 homers shy of
94
5.
strike.
And that's right. He was involved,
of
obviously, in the 1994 strike. So congratulations to both of those gentlemen for their spot at the Baseball Hall of Fame. Meantime, the Baltimore Orioles, congratulations to them. They take 3 of 4 from the Tampa Bay Rays. Bill, it felt like a playoff atmosphere there in St. Petersburg. 2 good teams, and the Orioles, what statement, if any, did they make?
Well, they're real. That's the statement they made. Look, when you go down into the Trop and win 3 out of 4, it's a big home field advantage for you. Now, they're not playing quite the way they were at the start of the season, but who would have thought after that start that the Rays had, the Orioles would be sitting there 2 games clear of them when you're looking at that situation. So I think it's a big statement, because just 2 years ago, I think they went 1-18 against the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yes.
And now they went down there and just won 3 out of 4 in the Trop, and they said, okay, this might be ours to just run away with. Run away was a hard word. This might be ours just to stay.
They completely believe now.
Yes, they do.
Especially when you have that absolute mutant in the 9th inning.
2 of them.
I saw him in spring training.
He's really,
gigantic.
he's unhittable right now. I mean, he's north of 100 miles an hour with the split, the whole skit. And I'm gonna say something. I'm got a man.
Get after
I got a new crush.
Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah.
Gunnar Henderson's the real deal.
I think there's a line for that.
Right?
0.52 ERA for Bautista over his last 30 games.
Did you think they were going to be, how close to this did you think the Orioles?
No, I didn't.
Bold
see
at the deadline.
How close, though?
Elite. I definitely saw another step forward.
Yeah, you did.
Just natural progression, but they're elite. And I thought the best thing this weekend was Grayson Rodriguez. He's starting to put it together, because everything is under the prism of the trade deadline this time of year, and obviously that's another team that could use help in the starting rotation, but there's your help internally if he starts to be the guy.
The Orioles system is so good that they can afford to give away some very productive pieces and still have a system that has plenty of talent left over.
I always think of what D-Rose said. You owe it to the boys at some point to have someone walk in the clubhouse.
Right.
I feel like Grayson Rodriguez gets a division start, the way he ball explodes out of his hand.
I was reading the Baltimore Sun.
60 games. 60.
The title, they're no longer rebuilding. I think we can all agree on that. The Rangers beating the Dodgers. They now lead the AL West by 3 games. And Anthony, I heard you in the last segment with Robert saying the Astros are starting to kind of find it and put it together. It's the most talented team in that division. Who is it?
Oh, man. Oh, boy. I still think the Astros probably. I mean, they have the pedigree, right? They know how to finish off a season. Do the Rangers know how to finish off a season? And I expect both of these clubs to be really aggressive, in the next week or so, because it's right there for the taking for both of them. And, the Astros might be 2 starters away from being the World Series type Astros we expect, but the Rangers might be as well. So they both have question marks in that area.
Jordan could be coming back as soon as tonight, and Jose Altuve is obviously coming back. Who knows what's going on with Michael Brantley, but that could be interesting.
What does Ric Flair always say?
To be the man, you got to beat the man.
So right now, I'm still.
And I'm the jet flying, limo riding.
Well, you didn't have to get all
okay, that's fine.
I want to give 2 guys
a little
love.
short and sweet.
Simeon, 200th homer. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
You are been a beast since you've come over. And I know we're talking about the trade deadline. Chris Young pulling off the Aroldis Chapman trade weeks before the actual deadline. He has been phenomenal. Exactly what they needed. And he threw a $103 yesterday.
I saw his numbers with the Yankees against right now. It's unbelievable.
It is.
The last year of his.
Yeah, what happened?
How does that happen? How do you just lose it and then come back like that?
All right.
Signed with Kansas City. We were all like, what? How's that going to work?
Well,
it worked out well.
For him.
For him.
All right.
Speaking of the Texas Rangers, our good friend Joel Sherman, in one of his columns in the New York Post, had an interesting element, little blurb, if you will, that people around the game, outside officials, think that the Rangers would be players in the Ohtani market if Ohtani was made available for trade. Now, Anthony, I'm not sure that Ohtani's going to be made available for trade because the Angels are playing better. They are in the playoff mix. You can't trade him right now.
Yeah, I don't want to step on anybody's clickbait because there's a lot of that out there right now.
By the way,
including at MLB.com.
to a division rival.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that is then you're hurting that division rival in years forward if they're just
That's also
emptying
true.
the cachet of prospects. But they've won 6 of 8. They're 4 games back of wild card spot. They traded for Mike Moustakas. They traded for Eduardo Escobar. You think they're all of a sudden going to say, never mind.
Yeah.
They got Mike Trout coming back in September. So I just think they're going to keep him and take their chances.
And listen, ownership when they unveiled the All-Star logo, because the All-Star game will be held in Arlington next year, ownership said, look, we're going to make everything in our power so that Bruce Bochy is managing the American League All-Star game for the American League next season, which obviously if that happens, it's because he's either won the World Series or they've made it to the World Series, Bill Ripken.
Is there something else in their power they could do? I just don't see Ohtani moving. The haul that they would have to get back for a short-term rental, because I don't think Texas is in the mix for locking him up long-term. I just don't. So I'm ruling Texas out on that side of it. Not saying he's not going to move somewhere, but I just can't see it. They're 4 games back. You're with the Angels. You're trying to make this push. You got the best player in the game right now on your team. How do you move that?
And the Angels would be asking for Jack Leiter.
I was just going to say, we've had this conversation forever. Are we even late to this conversation with Ohtani?
I just feel like at the end of the day, the owner runs the ship, and if he doesn't want to trade him, he's not going anywhere. And I agree with you. Is it a Max Scherzer, Trey Turner package that you have to get back? And who's got the ability to do that? I feel like Juan Soto, that was the template last year. I was sitting there last night kind of going through it. I think the Cubs make a monster run at him in the offseason. I think it makes a ton of sense with Seiya Suzuki, him being that franchise player.
Yeah.
Spring training still in Arizona because he likes the West Coast. I think they could be in.
Well, the interesting thing is that Soto, of course, wasn't a rental.
No.
Shohei is theoretically,
straight rental.
for all intents and purposes, a rental.